Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Tip. Max here with you for another video of preseason content. And today we're going to look at studs and flukes. Basically, flukes are not guys who are going to be terrible. They're just not guys I see replicating the amount of points that they got last season. First up, we have Jamie Benn. Big fan of the Stars, big fan of Jamie Benn, big body who goes to the dirty areas. Much smarter than 90% of the other guys on the ice. Last year, he had 33 goals, 45 assists, 78 points in 82 games. Thing is, in the past 3 years, he got 48 goals, 72 assists for 120 points in 203 games. Yes, he's had multiple 80-plus point seasons in the past, but that was almost a decade ago. He is now 34 years old, and the Stars did add quality players up front to help out the offense. So this could go both ways. Either he keeps up his pace from last season, but I personally think his role will regress a little bit. It'll be just as important from a hockey standpoint of view for the Dallas Stars. I just don't see him get above the 75-point mark next season. He'll be closer to 50, 55 points, and he'll still have a good season. Up next, we have Brock Nelson. I hate to call Nelson a fluke because I've been owning him for many years and he's been so good to me. The thing is, 75 points is a plateau I also don't see him getting back to, especially with Bo Horvat ahead of him on the depth chart. 30 goals and 55 to 60 points is a lot more realistic for Brock Nelson and will still be very good and helpful for fantasy managers. We also have Brandon Hagel, who had a really good year last year with the Lightning, posting above 44 points for the first time in his career. The main thing I dislike about him is that he does not hit, he does not block, and he only averages just a little bit above 2 shots a game. So if he goes cold, it's really not good for fantasy managers. On top of that, the Lightning kept their core but lost a lot of good depth. As of right now, he is slated to play on the second line with Anthony Cirelli and Connor Sheary. The positive thing is he may get PP1 time with the usual suspects on top, but that's too many questions for me at this time. I'm not risking it with Hagel. We'll have to wait preseason to see if there's any injuries, where all these guys slot in, but for now I think Hagel will have a slight regression. Yes, he is one of the best skaters in the National Hockey League, but that doesn't give you fantasy points. You know what does? Peripherals. I see him get closer to the 50-point mark this year. Who expected Josh Morrissey to break 75 points last year? I certainly did not. Prior to the 2022-2023 season, his best result was 15 goals, 22 assists, 37 points in 79 games. That's not even a point every 2 games. Now, will he get above 37 points this season? Yes. Will he be a point per game defenseman? I don't see it. Blake Wheeler, Pierre-Luc Dubois are gone. Sure, they added interesting young pieces in Velarde and Kupari. They have Perfetti still developing. And they added a complete player in Alex Iafallo, but I just don't think the Jets will be a force to be reckoned with this year. Expect 10 to 15 goals again, but closer to 55-60 points. He will be the QB on PP1, so you can expect almost half of his points to come on the power play, but I'm going to put him in the fluke section because that production will be very difficult to replicate. Up next, we have a Boston Bruins defenseman. Hampus Lindholm is and has always been a fantastic defenseman from a hockey point of view. Last year, when injuries occurred to the Bruins, Lindholm really stepped up to the plate and had career highs pretty much all around. Thing is, Charlie McAvoy is back and healthy, and I think he really is one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League, definitely underrated. I still think Lindholm is good depth for fantasy because he gets decent blocks, throws the puck on net, and is amazing defensively, so his plus minus is always going to be good. Last year he was plus 49. On top of that, no more Bergeron, Krejci. I've said it before, it hurts everyone around for fantasy. Lindholm is going back to the 30-40 point plateau. Now we'll talk about the studs. A stud for me is a guy who had career highs last year or had an amazing season and is in line to replicate those numbers once again this season. The first one on the list is Vince Dunn. Prior to last year, Vince Dunn had never crossed the 35-point mark in 6 NHL seasons. Now 26 years old, I believe he is just entering his prime. The switch to Seattle revitalized his career and made him the #1 guy there. In St. Louis, where he won a Stanley Cup, he was always behind bigger, older, and better defensemen at the time in Pietrangelo, Parayko, and company. Last season, he was 22nd in the league for time on ice, which really cements his status as the Kraken's #1 defenseman. Get used to it. I think Dunn replicates his prowess this season and for years to come. We also have Rickard Rakell, who had 60 points last season after getting 69 points in the last 2 years. He had only eclipsed the 52-point mark once in his career before. The 30-year-old is the Penguins' #1 winger, in my opinion, and I can only picture a repeat of last year or even better next to Sidney Crosby. The addition of Riley Smith only helps. A polyvalent player who can play on the left or on the right. And even if he gets downgraded to line 2, he'll get to play with Malkin. Boo-hoo. He should definitely be on the PP1 to start the year. Draft him mid to late rounds with confidence. And like I said, I think he may get career highs this year. We also have my boy, Jared McCann. I think Jared McCann was my first big call of last season. I didn't understand why he was still on some of your waiver wires deep in November, early December, when the guy was scoring above a goal every 2 games. Do I see him get 40 goals again? Maybe not. Will he finish the season above 60 points? I think so. He has multiple position eligibility and had an insane 19% shooting percentage. I see the Kraken regress a bit, but that shouldn't affect McCann. He's been so good to me last year that I'll stick by him. I think he does well again. Come on, I had to throw a goalie on here. I've spoken about Gustavsson before. He was a top 4 goaltender in the second half of the season and ended fantasy season as the #9 keeper while playing only 39 games. Quite the stud if you ask me. Yes, Fleury is still in Minnesota pushing for starts and will be ready if our studs stumble, but I'm backing Gustavsson to continue his hot streak. The Wild play an amazing defense, cutting down the blue line with a lone forechecker and a trap system on the road. I've seen them twice in the last 2 years, and both games finished 2-0 and 3-1 for them. It was some of the most boring games I've ever witnessed in my life, but it works damn well. They don't have any all-star defensemen as well, just a very solid blue-collar D-corps that can shut down any team on any given night. Give me Gustavsson as my fantasy goalie, and I start him with confidence this season. Up next, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. You'd be surprised to find out RNH had never passed the 69-point plateau in his career before last season's explosion. I think the reason for that was his fragility, since he had his first full season since the 2018-2019 season and only 3rd in his 12-year career. RNH is a fantastic hockey player, really a complete all-around guy who excels defensively. I'm really happy he got a major breakthrough last season. It hasn't always been easy for him. I'm gonna put him in the stud section with a little asterisk that he must stay healthy. Expect an above point per game production again and between 90 to 105 points if he plays the full season. And that's it for today, guys. But before I go, I want to go back to the goalies quickly one last time and say why I didn't mention the Buffalo Sabres in my last video. Truth is, everyone expects a 21-year-old kid to come be a savior and be a top 15 goaltender for a team who hasn't been in the playoffs since 2011. They've got about 5 potential goalies right now for 2 spots. First, Comrie sucks. Second, Tokarski hasn't been a regular in the NHL for years. Luukkonen had a winning record last year with horrendous stats. Hell, Devin Cooley could become a starting or a number 2 in the NHL this season if he has a phenomenal camp. As long as we don't see some on-ice action, I ain't touching Levy or any Buffalo goalies. Don't get me wrong. This is a guy who is from my area. I love the kid. He's going to be amazing. But as a hockey guy and from a hockey point of view, a little stint in the AHL will not hurt him while Buffalo refines itself and get better defensively. Last year they finished with the 3rd most goals behind Edmonton and Boston, but they gave up more goals than Arizona and only 7 less than the Montreal Canadiens. That's not an ideal situation for a 21-year-old kid. My advice is never be greedy with rookie goaltenders and do not chase the unknown. Thank you guys for watching. If you like the content, click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and we will be back for more advice pre-draft.